In the heart of Los Angeles, where the sun kisses the palm trees and the dreams of millions are forged in silicon and light, there lived a girl named Lexi. Lexi lived in a world made of glass and glowing screens. Her home was a sleek, minimalist penthouse overlooking the Hollywood Hills, a sanctuary of white marble, velvet textures, and the eternal artificial glow of ring lights. This was her empire. For 5 long years, she had meticulously built this kingdom, brick by digital brick. She had worked through every season, through sleepless nights and exhausting days, to make her presence perfect. She curated every pixel of her life. She stored memories like gold, fixed every minor imperfection in her feed, and made sure her image was just right. Every morning, she would wake up to the sound of 1,000 tings, the sweet, addictive melody of validation. She would stand by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the numbers on her screen. 12 million followers, a digital army of admirers. "This is my life," she would whisper to herself, smiling at her reflection in the glass. "I built this with my own hands. I am safe here. I am loved." But one night, in the blink of an eye, the sky of her digital world changed. There were no clouds, no wind, no thunder you could hear with your ears, but a silent storm was brewing in the wires. As the city lights flickered below, a shadow crept across her screen. Lexi reached for her phone, expecting the usual warmth of engagement, but the screen was cold. A single message appeared, chilling and final. Account terminated. Security alert. Hacked. She refreshed the page once, twice, 10 times, but the numbers didn't return. Her photos, her videos, her messages, her identity, gone. In just a few moments, the flood of the invisible storm had swept away everything she owned. The next morning, the digital eclipse was total. Lexi stood where her empire once stood. There was no feed, there was no connection, there was no comfort. There was only the cold, black glass and a deafening silence. For many days, Lexi wandered through her penthouse like a ghost. The space that once felt like a palace now felt like a tomb. She walked across the polished floors, but there was no sound of tings to follow her. She stared at the expensive camera gear sitting in the corner, gathering dust. It looked like ancient relics of a lost civilization. "I worked so hard," she sobbed into the empty air. 5 years of my life. Every meal I ate, every place I traveled, every outfit I wore, it was all for them. And now they don't even know I exist." She felt a searing anger at the unfairness of it all. Why did this happen to me? I followed the rules. I fed the algorithm. I gave it my soul, and it ate me whole. There was no validation in the mirror anymore. Without the numbers to tell her she was beautiful, she felt ugly. Without the comments to tell her she was smart, she felt foolish. Without the shares to tell her she was important, she felt invisible. She walked down the streets of Beverly Hills, surrounded by people, but she felt like a phantom. She wanted to scream, "Do you know who I am?" But the truth bit her hard. She didn't even know who she was. She remembered the nights she spent editing until the sun came up, obsessing over the perfect caption. She remembered ignoring her mother's phone calls because she was too busy engaging with strangers. She had built a house on sand, and the tide had finally come in. She felt completely empty, a void where her heart used to be. One afternoon, unable to bear the silence of her apartment any longer, Lexi drove aimlessly until she reached a small community center on the outskirts of the city. It was a place for children who had very little. No iPads, no designer clothes, no ring lights, just tired walls and the sound of laughter. She sat on a wooden bench, staring at the dust motes dancing in a shaft of sunlight. She felt like those dust motes, tiny, insignificant, and drifting toward nothingness. An old woman, Sarah,
who had been volunteering at the center for 30 years, sat down beside her. Sarah had eyes that looked like they had seen 1,000 storms and survived every one of them. She watched Lexi for a long time before speaking. "You look like someone who is searching for something they never really owned," Sarah said softly. Lexi looked up, her eyes red from days of crying. "I lost everything," she whispered. "My career, my followers, my voice. 5 years of hard work deleted in a second. I am nothing now." Sarah smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. "Digital storms do not come to destroy you, Lexi. They come to reveal your strength. They come to clear away the clutter so you can see what is actually real." Lexi shook her head bitterly. "But you don't understand. My business was those numbers. Without them, I have no value." "No," Sarah said, her voice firm. "You lost things. You lost data stored on a server in some cold room far away, but you did not lose yourself. Did the storm take your ability to tell a story? Did it take the empathy in your heart? Did it take the courage it took to start from zero 5 years ago?" Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out a small, tattered notebook. It's filled with stories written by someone who had nothing but wanted to give everything. You still have your mind. You still have your skills. You still have your spirit. Those are the only things a storm cannot sweep away. That night, Lexi sat in her dark penthouse, but she didn't reach for the light switch. She thought about Sarah's words. The hack had taken her followers, but it hadn't taken her ability to connect. It had taken her luxury, but not her curiosity. It had taken her status, but not her essence. The digital storm had stripped her naked so she could finally see the skin she was in. She realized that for years she had been a slave to the ting. She had been building a monument to her ego, not a bridge to other people. The next morning, Lexi made a choice. She didn't call a lawyer. She didn't try to hack her way back. She went back to the community center. She sat in a circle with the children and began to tell them a story. Not a story about products or trends, but a story about a girl who lost a kingdom and found herself. She used no filters. She had no ring lights, just her voice, raw and honest. For the first time in years, she felt a connection that didn't depend on Wi-Fi. She saw the light in the children's eyes and realized that this was her real voice. She began to record again, but this time it was different. She sat in the park, on the floor of her apartment, in the messy corners of real life. She worked from sunrise to sunset, not for the likes, but for the truth. Some days were hard. The silence was still there, but she filled it with purpose. She built a new home for her spirit, one that wasn't hosted on a server, but lived in her actions. As she looked at her life now, it wasn't as loud as before, but it was stronger, it was safer, it was real. Losing everything is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is the beginning of a stronger one. The storm did not destroy Lexi's life. It gave her the chance to rebuild it better. If the world ever takes away what you have, if the numbers disappear and the lights go out, remember this: you may lose what you have, but you never lose who you are. And as long as you still have yourself, you can rebuild anything.